Two 160-pound Neapolitan Mastiffs sat in a rescue for 214 days, together, every single day. Volunteers tried to separate them once, just to see if it would be easier to find them homes individually. Rocco stopped eating. Bruno sat at the gate and didn't move for 11 hours. After that, nobody tried again. They were a package deal, and the package weighed 320 pounds, and nobody was coming. Until Ray. Raymond Kowalski was 58 years old and had not left his house voluntarily in 4 months. Not since the funeral, not since his daughter drove him home from the cemetery and he walked through the front door and sat down in his armchair and the silence hit him like something physical. His wife of 31 years, gone in 6 weeks, from the diagnosis to the end. The house still smelled like her. He hadn't moved most of her things. He wasn't ready, and he had stopped asking himself when he would be ready because the answer kept coming back the same way every time. Never felt too honest and too permanent all at once. His neighbor Carol had been watching him the way neighbors watch people they're genuinely worried about. She brought food he didn't eat. She called on the phone he didn't answer. She knocked on the door twice a week and stood on the porch long enough to make sure he was still in there. One Tuesday in February, she knocked and told him she was taking him somewhere, and he didn't have a choice. He thought she meant a grief group. She meant a rescue shelter called Second Chance, 40 minutes outside of town. Ray sat in Carol's car and said nothing the entire drive. He had no interest in a dog. He had no interest in anything. He was there because Carol had that particular look on her face that his wife used to get, the one that meant the conversation was already over and he just hadn't caught up yet. He had seen that look for 31 years. He recognized it too well to argue. Inside the shelter, it was loud, dogs barking from every direction, volunteers moving fast, the smell of disinfectant, and something underneath it that was harder to name. Ray walked slowly, hands in his coat pockets, eyes mostly down. Carol asked one of the staff about available dogs. The volunteer, a young woman named Jess, hesitated before answering. She said there were 2 dogs they had been trying to place for 7 months. Brothers, Neapolitan Mastiffs, both around 160 pounds. She said most people took one look and walked back out. She paused, then added, "They have to go together. We've tried separating them. It doesn't work." Ray looked up for the first time since they had arrived. Jess led them to the far end of the building, Kennel 19, and there they were, Rocco and Bruno, 2 gray mountains of wrinkled fur sitting perfectly still, side by side, watching him with dark, quiet eyes. Their faces were a landscape of deep folds and heavy jowls, the kind of face that made strangers cross the street, the kind of face that had kept them in that kennel for 214 days. Ray stood at the gate and didn't speak. Rocco shifted first. He stood up slowly, walked across the kennel, and pressed his enormous head against the gate bars, right where his hand was resting. Not pushing, just resting. The weight of him was immediate and warm. Bruno followed, slower, heavier, and sat down directly on the other side of the gate, leaning his full body against the bars and closing his eyes. Ray stood between 2 160-pound dogs with one hand on each massive head and didn't move for a long time. "I see you're still here but haven't subscribed yet. That honestly stings a little. Hit subscribe. You'll want to see what comes next." He turned to Carol. She already had tears on her face. He looked back at the dogs. Rocco was still pressing into his hand. Bruno hadn't opened his eyes. Ray said quietly, "Both of them?" Jess said, "They don't do well apart." Ray said, "I know the feeling." He signed the paperwork 40 minutes later. The first night was chaos. 320 pounds of dog in a house built for silence. Rocco knocked over the coat rack within 90 seconds of entering the front door. Bruno walked directly to the couch and sat on it, looking at Ray with an expression that suggested this had always been his couch, and Ray was simply a new development he would have to accept. Rocco found the bedroom, turned 3 slow circles on the floor beside the bed, and lay down with a sound like a bag of sand dropped from a considerable height. Ray stood in the middle of his living room at 9:47 in the evening, looking at the complete disaster 2 animals had made of his quiet house in under 10 minutes. He laughed, for the first time in 4 months. Not a big laugh, not the kind that takes over your whole body, just a small one, startled out of him by something he hadn't seen coming. But it was real, and it was his, and it was the first one since the funeral. Stories like this remind us why some people are worth waiting 214 days for. The weeks that followed were not easy. Ray had not taken care of another living thing in months, and he had barely been taking care of himself. Now he had 2 dogs who needed feeding twice a day, walking twice a day, grooming, vet visits, and a level of daily physical engagement that his body had to slowly remember how to provide. Bruno pulled on the leash with enough force that Ray came home from the first walk with his shoulder aching. Rocco decided that Ray's armchair was a shared space, which left Ray with approximately 1/3 of an armchair each evening, while 160 pounds of dog occupied the rest without a single apology. But the 3 a.m. nights were something different entirely. On the 5th night, Ray woke from the dream he had been having every night since the funeral, the one where the house is exactly the same, but she is not there, and he keeps walking from room to room looking. He lay in the dark with his chest tight and his breathing wrong, and the silence pressing down the way it had been pressing since November. And then he felt it, weight on his left side. Rocco, somehow up on the bed without Ray hearing him, pressed solid and warm against his ribs. On the floor beside the bed, Bruno had moved close and laid his heavy chin on the mattress edge, watching Ray in the darkness without moving. Ray put his hand on Rocco's side and felt him breathing, slow, steady, completely present. He lay there for a long time, just listening to 2 dogs breathe in the dark, and his chest slowly loosened, and somewhere around 4 a.m., he finally fell back asleep. That became the new 3 a.m., not the dream with no ending. This, 320 pounds of dog, and 1 man who had forgotten what it felt like to be needed, and 2 dogs who had spent 214 days at the gate of kennel 19, waiting for exactly him, without ever knowing his name. Not all broken things stay broken. Sometimes what puts them back together weighs 320 pounds, drools on everything you own, and refuses to give you back your armchair. And sometimes that is exactly enough. Would you have taken them both? Or would you have walked away? Tell me in the comments.